Can you tell me about, or I asked you, what are the keys of successful show running for you?
Well, the key is to be involved at every stage of the process. Because if you're a showrunner, you're aware that series are being made at least 4 times. When they're written, when they're shot, when they're edited, and when you work with the music. So each of those steps changes the story, the mood, the emotions. So I think, a showrunner is someone who is basically creatively in charge from the very beginning to the end, and knows how to deal with these different stages. Of course, this is nothing that any showrunner can do by himself or herself. So the other equally important thing about showrunning is to find a team that can add value to each stage of that process. So, as we like to say, it takes a village. You need to build a village, and then, a village doesn't walk, but this group, this team needs to walk through all of these different stages, and that's the fun of it, and that's also what makes it quite complex.
Absolutely, but tell me, what is the impetus of a script for you? Do you usually start from characters that you're interested in, or you try to tackle a larger theme and subject when you start writing a concept for a TV show, and then later on, different stages, but how do you start usually?
It's I would say most of the time it's the character first, but sometimes there's also a story that catches my attention, and then I have several characters and I have to decide who the protagonist will be, because you always, in every show, even if it's an ensemble show, you need a clear protagonist. But then it's often very much going back and forth between what people call plot and character. Because they're so intertwined that you can't separate them, but you often can't think about both at the same time. So I feel myself going back and forth between character and plot and how they interact a lot over the course of development, and then of course in the writers' room with other writers. And it's always good to have several brains, because all these stories are also incredibly complex. And if I talked about the 4 stages of making a series, I would say the script writing is still the most important. And at Big Window, we really focus on script development, because once you have a great script, it's a magnet. It's a magnet for talent, it's a magnet for the buyers, and it will be a great foundation for everything that comes next, the shooting and the post-production. So the script is still the most important part of the game.
Yeah, like Hitchcock, I think, said once, right? For a good film, you always start with 3 things: good script, right?
Yes, that's Billy Wilder, no? Who said that? I think it was Billy
I thought
Wilder.
Hitchcock, but maybe it was Billy Wilder, or maybe both.
Definitely one of them.
It's one of them. But so even with TNT's, I don't know if the English title will be The Jungle, but whenever the idea came up, do you usually actually, before you commit fully and 100% to a project, an idea and a concept of a TV series, how long do you usually kind of, how long are you busy with the idea mentally? Like, is it something right away, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write right now when I go back and sit at my desk? Or, weeks, months before you even think, all right, I'm gonna fully commit to this whole thing. I think I understand the needs already of certain characters, or I understand the whole plot, and I was busy enough with this whole thing by myself, and now I want to share it with my team.
Yeah. I would say it's case by case. There's not one way to do it. But what I would say, what's really interesting is when you have an idea, you, when I have an idea, I don't always sit down right away and start typing. And I often wonder why. But I think there's something happening in your brain once you have an idea that is really important to you. Even if you don't sit at your computer, it works in your brain somewhere. There's something in your subconscious where and then all of a sudden, something like a missing part for a story emerges, from out of nowhere. And when you take a walk or when you take your children to school. And I think the brain has really weird ways to digest story or to create story.
Yeah.
Then there's always this moment where, for me, there's always this moment, and it could be 2 days after I had the idea, or sometimes, a month after I had the idea, where then I sit down and I feel like I have the urge to just, put it on paper.
Put it on paper. And we always start with a white sheet or white paper. What recent series actually have inspired you maybe to go certain ways or directions or pick a certain genre? Are there any TV shows that have inspired you recently?
Recently, there's always something. I think Succession was very influential for me. I think Succession was very impressed. And I don't know what that says about myself, but everybody keeps saying that all these people are so awful, and I don't actually agree with that.
No, me neither.
I empathize with them. I think they, of course, they do awful things, but I don't think they're all evil people. And I think that's an amazing show. I love to watch a lot of comedy. Deutschland89 has some humor in it. I really think humor is almost like the highest art form. And I don't know. I think I'm always meandering somewhere between crime, thriller, and humor. And so. Yeah, inspiration can come from many sources. It's also I get a lot of inspiration from novels or from people who I meet in my life, and so it comes, not necessarily from other TV shows, but I currently find it very difficult to watch a lot of TV because it's just it takes so much out of my time.
And we're flooded. The market is flooded, and you got to be convinced watching the pilot, the first episode. If you're not convinced, you're out, right? You're not invested anymore because time is precious. But finally, now with the global pandemic, what do you think will change on the market, especially looking at the European market? Do you think that the US will come over because they're still struggling, or do you think when the numbers go up here again there will be second wave? How did it affect the global market, but especially Europe, and what do you think will happen in the future?
Currently we're still doing relatively well to the US, but I think this can change any moment. I don't think that we're somehow have developed superpowers against the virus. It's basically up to us how it's going. We have, I have a sweet spot for, social democracy. So I'm really happy that we have an infrastructure that can keep us safer and healthier than in many other countries. But I think we could suffer terribly this winter. I am currently a little bit pessimistic. So I don't know about so many productions moving to Europe. I hope it's possible. I really hope so. And again, you know, each of us should do their very best to make that possible.
Yeah.
But more generally, I would say it's, and that's not very original to say that, but it's the big accelerator, right? It's the things that were already happening are happening now much faster. The death of movie theaters,
Yeah.
ascent of the streamers. You know, the streamers will also take over partially the role of movie theaters in showing more features.
Yes.
And we'll see a continued race between the streamers to secure the top positions, right? They all want to be, you know, they all want you to subscribe to their service, and they know that the average household or many households will only subscribe to maybe 3 or 4 SVOD services. So
Absolutely.
they need to be there. So they will be investing a lot of money, and so there will be sustained demand for high-end series and high-end feature films. And so it's still a very good time to be a writer, producer, or showrunner.
Right. Yeah, I think we're still living in this great third golden age of long form storytelling.
Yeah.
And that's why I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best with the start of Deutschland89, of course, and with the rest, with the development of your new projects, and much success for Big Window.
Thank you very much.
And your team. And I hope to see you next year at the Berlin Series Festival.
In person.
On site, in person, face to face. And thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
We stay in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jörg. Bye-bye.